All right, so you haven't seen closed position yet, so we're just going to want to talk about what is closed position. All right, so closed position, the lady's in front of me, and when we go to closed position, we're a few inches apart, and we're offset just a little bit. The center of her body is lined up in the right side of mine, and her right side is lined up with the center of my body. And we're close enough and comfortable enough to where when we move, technically when we move, she should feel my lower body move, but we'll talk about that later. Then we have a hand hold. We have a hand hold, all right? This hand is out here, comfortable position, just like she's holding my hand right here, at about shoulder height. Then my right hand goes on her shoulder blade. It goes on her shoulder blade on the back. Doesn't go any lower or higher. And what I want to do is point my fingers down because it raises my elbow up. And probably, and not my shoulder, raises my elbow, not my shoulder. Because what happens, the hardest thing in waltz is to maintain that frame. We haven't got to all of it yet, is to maintain the frame because you're concentrated on these figures and we see this. You know, we have to maintain that frame. All right? So my right hand's on her shoulder blade. Her left hand is on, and that is not a waltz move, by the way. All right. Her left arm, her left elbow is resting on my arm, my elbow, and her hand is gripping my bicep. All right. So.
I'm not resting it. Don't ever rest heavily on the man.
And ladies, don't embarrass your partner and say he doesn't have a bicep. Okay. Don't do that. Her hand is resting on my bicep. It is never on my shoulder. It is never on my neck. It is never behind me. We see that a lot. The tips, every guy has a seam on his shirt. The tips of her fingers should never be above the seam of my shirt. Right there. That's our closed frame position. And I've got a lot of points of contact. No matter what I do, she'll feel that move. So let's just look at that real quick.
So what the man would do is stand there with your arm out. Okay. So he'd be ready to you step up and take position. So the lady is looking out here between the ceiling and the wall.
Yes. So in waltz, we actually never look at our partner. All right. Unlike some other dances, we want to look to the left for the most part. The ladies, just past the ears will work. You don't have to turn hard. You see these ballroom figures. You don't have to do that, but look left and just look up at a point where the wall meets the ceiling. If you see that line where the wall meets the ceiling and your eyes are focused, not like this to look up at it, but your head is straight looking at that, that's going to keep you at a good level position because we sometimes see this. Looking down at our feet, you're not only does it not look good, but you're off balance every time you do that. You have no balance looking at your feet. All right, and I'll promise you, the instructions on how to do these figures are not written on the floor. You cannot read the floor as you dance by looking at the floor. The instructions on how to do this have got to be in your head. All right, so let's step up to our partner and let's all practice getting a really good frame.